Don't you just love a technical issues day? I mean, we've had a variety of tech issues this season, but today's a challenging one. But we'll get there. We will get there. So, hello, I'm Becky, the Mindful Ginger Nut, and welcome to my Instagram live series where I'm talking to an array of fabulous women about running small businesses and going through the perimenopause. So today I'm going to be joined by Helen Rimmer, who is a kindness, wellbeing and burnout coach. And all being well, the system is going to let me add her to the call and the rest of the session is going to run smoothly. Let's see. Let me find Helen now. Invite Helen. Hopefully you can see that. Dun, dun, dun.
Hello. Can you see me?
I can see you.
I'm just going to sit like this now for the next and talk like this. Because I don't know.
I have no idea what is going on.
No, I thought maybe last time I pressed something, but the time I just got chucked out, I hadn't done anything.
So weird.
It was almost like I could only do 30 seconds with you or something.
But that airplane mode seems to work. So the first live that I did this series with the lovely Jenny Holiday, we recorded the whole thing, went out live, and then there was no sound.
Oh.
Yeah, we could hear each other, but once I uploaded it to my feed, there was nothing. So
weird.
Technology is definitely testing us this series, but thank you so much for joining me, Helen. It's lovely to see your face. Feel like it's been ages since we've seen each other. So
we will catch up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward to our chat today. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Hello to Ange, who's just appeared online as well. So nice to see you too, Ange. And if anyone's got any questions, either during the chat or afterwards, please pop your comments, your questions in the chat, and we'll try our best to answer them. Right, perimenopause, Helen.
Yes.
When did it all start? And what has perimenopause looked like so far for you?
Well, mine might be a bit different because I had a baby at 42, which is quite old, through IVF. So I had been pumped full of vitamins. I said all my hormones for ages. So I had baby, and unlike my eldest, where things started to go back to normal quite quickly, regular periods. Like I had my first period when I was just 11. So I'd had 26-day cycles my entire life, until after I had my youngest. So actually the first things that I noticed was the periods all over the place. And at first I thought, oh yeah, well, I've had a baby. It's a stressful time, middle of COVID, all's going to be a bit, ooh. And they never really settled down. Sometimes they were super heavy and sometimes not. But then I wouldn't say hot flushes like you imagine them, but I would get so hot and sweaty and things. I started to think, oh, maybe this is what's going on. And obviously some of it you look back with hindsight and you're like, oh yeah, no, I was getting a bit of brain fog there. And that all coincided with me burning out at work and leaving quite a toxic situation. So as well, you've got stress on top. So you can sometimes, you put stuff down, don't you, that, oh, that's stress, when actually, is it perimenopause, or is perimenopause making the stress worse, sort of thing. So that was really how it first looked for me, was the periods all over the place and then getting a bit sweaty. Quite sweaty.
Do you know, there seems to be such a common theme throughout my chats because I know that you've got ADHD as well, and we'll come on to ADHD.
Yes.
But it seems that life generally is throwing a lot of stuff at women all at one time. So it's really hard to tell whether initially it is perimenopause or whether it's the other stuff that you're going through. And that seems to be such a common theme throughout these chats. So that's really interesting. And God, I mean, talk about, being pregnant. Were you pregnant during COVID?
So we did the pregnancy test the day before Boris announced the lockdowns. So yes. And at the time, I was running a library service for a university. So I had 80 odd people dependent on me for their jobs. I was homeschooling my 4-year-old at the, well, was he 5? He was 5 by then, in reception. It was hell.
Oh my days,
You know, when you
honestly.
look back on things, oh, and we were having an extension built, so that all had to be paused, so we couldn't really use the garden. So it was just, you know, when people like reminisce about lockdown, they're like, oh, and we just sat outside. You're like, I did not, did not. I was doing everything.
Oh my gosh!
So
Wow.
yeah, a lot of it you could put that. Yeah, oh yeah, it was stress.
I mean, I found. I mean, lockdown. It was stressful,
Yeah,
but I was very lucky in that I had my little. I was living in London at the time. I'd got a little postage-sized piece of decking just outside my
nice.
flat. So I
Yeah,
was able to work from there. I was enjoying the sun, getting out to the local park, still keeping my distance from people.
yeah,
But I was really only looking after me, myself, and I.
yeah,
And I mean that comes with other
yeah.
complications, of course, because the loneliness is very
Loneliness.
real. But I was
Mm.
really only just trying to survive and work.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, all these women, including yourself, were just like, you know, let's have a baby. At 42 as well, Helen. I mean,
Yeah,
wild.
we were one of the last couples to have IVF in the country. So yeah, it was, yeah, because they stopped doing that a couple of weeks before lockdown. So
Gosh, I
yeah,
didn't even think about the
yeah.
implications of that.
Oh,
Jeez.
and I had to take immune suppressants because there was some immune thing going on, which meant it was even less safe for me to be out of the house.
Bloody hell. So
You can write
when
it.
you when did you start noticing this sort of, I mean, obviously you're
Juggle.
already juggling a lot at this point anyway, but the juggle between running your business and the perimenopause symptoms and everything else that you've got going on, like, yeah, at what point did you start noticing that
I
things
think it.
might be askew?
Yeah, I think it's and I think this happens to a lot of women. It's that combination of everything as well that you're juggling. And you can't say for sure it's perimenopause because there's this sort of intersectionality between it. It's like, well, actually, did I burn out because the perimenopause took away some of those veils of, you know, actually, I'm just going to accept this. And I was like, no, I'm going to fuck off. You know, this is going to do it. Yeah. Was I prepared to stand up for myself? You know, I think some of what I was sort of thinking about is when you start puberty, you know, the other end of the scale, you
Yeah,
know, you're like, I've got a period.
yeah,
That's a moment. You don't actually know for sure what's going on with perimenopause.
no,
And not everyone gets it. And I spoke to my mum and she was like, well, I didn't have any symptoms. And our sort of history of how we experience periods was very similar. And would I've experienced like the fog? For me, it was the sweating I really struggled with, the fog, moods a bit as well, and not sleeping at times. But
yeah.
actually, was all of that exasperated by the other stuff, or was the other stuff exasperated by the perimenopause? You know.
And did you have a conversation with your
Yeah.
doctor? What did you sort of
So
do from there?
I remember distinctly, I was at Gatwick Airport, we were flying out, my in-laws had a house in Spain, and I was like, I am too hot, like the heat, my body could not control its temperature sort of thing. And I bought some menopause vitamins. I decided there and then when I got back I was going to go and talk to the doctor. So that's what I did. My doctors are amazing. Did an e-consult. We had them way back. Arranged to see someone and she just sat down. She said, I'll do your bloods, but she knew the blood tests were not going to necessarily tell you stuff. I felt heard because I talked about things like the brain fog and everything. And my doctors, one of the senior GPs, had trained to be a menopause doctor, but she knew wouldn't have had the, you know, like capacity. She only
Yeah.
worked part-time, capacity for everyone. So she had trained all the other doctors, male and female, to do the basics, basically. So she could deal with people who maybe had much more complex or extreme, and that was brilliant. So they had everything, and they knew there was none of that. I hear from friends where they're like, well, you've told me all these symptoms, but you haven't got hot flushes, so you can't have menopause. Or, oh, you've all, because I always have had hot flushes just before my period, like in night flashes. So actually, that wouldn't be a red flag necessarily
Yeah.
for me at first. Um, and I described it as being at times like really bad PMS as well. It was almost like just went on longer. You know how you get to know yourself. I always get really anxious just before a period, but this was like ongoing. I mean, clearly I was in a situation at work that was ongoing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was so supported and so lucky. But I have always said to friends who haven't been so lucky, um, one friend went to their doctors and was told that the answer to menopause, because you're flinging off lots of eggs, is to get pregnant. I was like, maybe find another doctor.
That is dreadful. I mean, to be fair, my mum will probably watch this back, so I've got to be careful what I say. But my mum did always tell me, because I've always suffered with painful periods. She
Yes,
was
that's
like
me.
when
Yeah.
you have a baby, it will get better.
My mum said the same to me.
And did
Actually,
it?
it did. It did. Yeah.
See, I can't prove that one. No babies to show for it, but I've just continued to suffer.
Yeah, no, the real terrible pain. Yeah, no, that was true. But yeah, so yeah, I was just very lucky. Really good
That's so
doctor.
interesting, though, isn't it? And I do, because I've always thought that I haven't been to the doctors yet. I know I'm perimenopausal.
Yeah.
I absolutely know I am. I haven't been to the doctors. I went when I had my 40-year-old health check,
Hmm.
which we get as sort of standard
Yeah.
practice across most GPs in the country, although
Yeah.
not all by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to the nurse, I think it was a nurse who saw me then, or a doctor, I think I might be perimenopausal. Oh no, you're too young. But I was 40. This is my 40-year-old health check. Like, even if I'm not perimenopausal, surely we should
It's on
be
the horizon.
instigating a conversation. Yes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, and I've mentioned this in a previous live, I found a lump in my boob just before Christmas.
Oh,
So
I
I
remember.
went
Yeah.
and got it sorted out
Mm.
at Brighton Hospital. And again, everyone had like told me, don't go to Brighton Hospital, it's awful, blah, blah, blah. I saw the most wonderful doctor. She was trained as a menopause doctor. And she was
Yeah.
like, 100% you will be perimenopausal.
Mm.
And not just because of my list of symptoms, but because of my age. Because for those that are watching that don't know, apparently now you can be in that sort of perimenopause phase for a good 10 years before you reach the menopause itself.
Yeah.
So realistically, we're looking at people potentially being perimenopausal as early as like 35, and then there's rare cases where it's
Even
even
younger.
younger. So it's wild, but it all just does seem to be a bit of a postcode lottery, doesn't it, in terms of like how good your GP is, what services you're offered.
Yeah.
And the blood test thing like baffles me. I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox now. I'm
You are?
going off on one.
Yeah.
But the fact that they lead you to believe that this blood test will, give you the answers that you're looking for, yet you could go on 2 consecutive days, have a blood test done and get 2 very different answers,
Yeah.
probably even at different times of a single day.
Yeah. And
So
different hormones, and because they only do it when you're there, they don't know what your baseline is either.
yeah.
You know, yeah. So in a way, women should have blood tests regularly to find out what their normal is. Because I've had IVF, I had ideas about
Yeah.
things. But interestingly, I think I was heading into perimenopause when we were trying for my youngest, because my eldest was not IVF, straight away pregnant.
Yeah.
And I had him, how old is he now? So I had him just before I turned 37. So I was 36 when I got pregnant. And I suspect in the time between having him and starting trying is when menopause started to hit, because I can't blanked it all out, but some of my hormone levels had dropped quite a lot. So yeah.
It's tricky, isn't it? I mean, I really hope there's a lot, obviously, of noise at the moment about doctors taking women's health stuff more seriously. And yeah, there's a long list of things that they need to start, prioritizing almost women
Mm. Yeah,
more. But the perimenopause has got to be one of the earliest things they look at because, well, yeah,
the impact. Yeah,
it's huge. It's huge. It's huge.
yeah, yeah,
I'm going to
definitely.
get down off my soapbox and
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about your ADHD
Yeah.
because you've been quite open, certainly,
Mm.
to
With you.
me and
Yeah.
our local network about it, which is fantastic. You're the second guest
Mm.
I've had on who's had a diagnosis.
Mm.
When did you start to experience? Were you diagnosed with ADHD prior to having your youngest? At
Okay.
what point did the ADHD come along? Do you think you've always had symptoms, but they were exacerbated by perimenopause? Where does it fit in? Talk to me.
So, I was diagnosed just over a year ago. Yeah, just about 14 months ago, 13, 14 months ago. And when I sat down and I answered all the questions and stuff, and he said, to be honest, I just had to look at what your mum had written, your parents had written, and you were ADHD throughout, like textbook. And looking back, a lot of the things as a child, like, oh, she always leaves it to the last minute, Well, yeah, because I work with a deadline. She could do better, like if she only applied herself, and all of these things that actually, for a girl, yeah, I had it. But obviously, this was the 80s and early 90s. Everyone thought it was naughty boys.
Yeah.
So no one ever sort of thought of that. I was diagnosed dyspraxic when I was 6, and the two are very closely linked.
Right.
But at that time, the focus was on my coordination, not on the executive function sort of side of things. So I got through school. Probably because of the dyspraxia, I developed systems around how I did things without knowing. Same with the ADHD, without knowing. Um, Ended up running library services, so very big picture, all the things that I now look back on and go, blimey, that was my ADHD. I could look at things in different ways. I was a creative thinker, all these things. But then got diagnosed, left work, got um, perimenopause, and I think, because I've read quite a lot about it, apparently one of the things that happens is the hormone shift with perimenopause just makes it so you can't ignore your ADHD any longer.
Yeah, it's like you can't continue masking it.
Yeah, you're riddled with it, and it's like the veil has gone, and it was just like, actually, this is who I am. And so I sort of started on a journey exploring like what that meant. My friend Nick Gray was going through the same thing. Like, shall we get diagnosed, shall we? Yeah.
I was
And
going to say, what did the diagnosis look like for you? At what point did you kind of go, oh, had you done enough research yourself to go, I think I might have ADHD? Was
yeah,
it other people pointing it out to you? And then at what point did you go, I want to get that official diagnosis?
yes.
Because for me, I've recently self-diagnosed.
Mm,
Quite, I
yeah,
can't say that it's impacting my day-to-day life in a negative way. So I'm kind of in the mindset at the moment where I'm already on medication for anxiety. And
yeah,
yes, in hindsight, the anxiety might also be part of the
yeah,
ADHD,
definitely.
but I
Yeah.
don't really want to mess with my meds.
No, no.
So I'm intrigued to hear like what that
Yeah.
looked like for you.
So it was sort of like, I think of it almost like a flower unfurling, like you've got those sort of curled up flowers that furl. And just bit by bit, I started to think, oh, I do work better with a deadline. Oh, yeah, maybe I should just leave things to the last minute, because actually I'm not going to get it done. I'll just spend 2 weeks doing something that only takes 30 seconds and stuff. You watch reels, and me and my husband would send them to each other going, yeah, that's you. That's you. And then I think my youngest has it as well, so that starts to make you think.
Yes.
And then, so my best friend from childhood, we grew up together. Her little sister she'd hate little sister. She and me growing up, they were always like, "Oh, you two are so alike." Oh, and then she got diagnosed, and she told my mum. She was like, "I think Helen's got it," basically, and she then was like, "Helen, yeah." And she was one of the first people I told I'd been diagnosed. She was like, "Oh, riddle me surprised." So it
Oh,
was
brilliant.
those conversations with friends who were like, "Well, that's probably your ADHD,"
Mm.
and things like looking back, how I would go, "I've had an idea. I've now got a business. I've had an idea," It's just like, actually, that's probably because when I was, when was I? About 30, just coming up to my third. No, I was probably about 26. I went out for a cup of tea with one of my best friends on New Year's Day, and we were like, "What should we do this year?" And I said, "I'd like to open a bookshop." By the beginning of February, I'd opened a bookshop. It's like a
Oh,
full-time
but
job.
at least, like when you have an idea, you see it through, even if you don't stick with it long term. You
Yeah.
do get it up and running.
Oh, you get up and running. Don't think about the finances and things. you know. It's all on a wing of the prayer. But yeah, I think you look back, you tell people that, and you're like, yeah, it was really obvious, wasn't it? Really obvious. And I've got a couple of friends who are now, following my wake, and one of them's just like, yeah, yeah. So that's why I am completely disorganised, and and like object permanence, realizing that I was never going to keep things tidy because, like my, growing up, because I would just leave stuff abandoned because I'd given
Yeah,
up on it.
yeah,
And the other thing I've learned, which I'm fairly sure I've had, is demand avoidance. And actually, I hated being told what to do.
mm.
And I remember my mum coming in and saying, "Hi, so you need to tidy your room." And I'd be like, "No, I don't. I don't." And it became almost part of my identity. I had this messy room. But actually, I didn't really like the messy room.
Yeah.
But you're telling me what to do. I'm not doing it. Why are you telling me what to do?
Wow, your poor mum.
Yeah. Also, finding it easier to do things when you're like body doubling type stuff,
Yes.
like we've co-worked and stuff, realizing that, yeah, I hated being in an office on my own. Whenever I was in an office on my own, I'd be disappearing off places to go and try and
Yeah.
find someone else to talk to.
It's funny, isn't it? I mean, body doubling has been a big one for me, and even I joined Freelancer Magazine co-working earlier this week,
Mm.
and I've been in their community a little while, but I haven't really done the co-working side of things. But my friend Erin, who was a previous
Oh,
guest
yes.
on this series of lives, it was her first one hosting, so I went on, and they have
Ah.
quite lengthy sort of periods of co-working. So where like the Being Freelance community that I'm in, they'll do 25-minute sort
Mm.
of blocks and then break up for a chat and then another 25 minutes, etc. This one was, I think, 45 minutes, and
Ah.
I managed to get so much done in that
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
And because I'm the worst for going, oh, my washing machine's finished, I just need to hang the washing up, or oh, the pile of washing up is finally annoying me, let me go and do that. I'll have a quick screen break.
Yeah.
But actually, when you body doubling or co-working,
Oh.
there's you just don't think about it.
No, it helps
So
you focus,
yeah,
doesn't it? And
it
it's
really
that
does.
thing like, oh, the washing's pinged. Oh, I need to get that out. Oh, but I've just noticed this over here that I need to do. And it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
side quests.
So before we move on, just like, what was it then that sparked you to actually go down and get it medically diagnosed?
I wanted to try medication, for one thing. And I felt some of the symptoms were getting worse,
Mm-hmm.
with things like just feeling exhausted, decision fatigue type stuff. Um, it's almost like I think some of that was exacerbated by the perimenopause, and just like feeling like everything was important or feeling like nothing was important, and that stuff. So really, it was that. It was probably, yeah, getting medicated. I think
Yeah.
we're like wanting to be medicated, and it's helped me so much because now I understand things. Like I understand rejection sensitivity disorder, but I now know how to handle it so it doesn't impact. So
Yeah.
things like Oh yeah, no, I haven't got that contract. Right, I'll just take a minute to digest that before I do anything else, rather than let it like sort of,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
amazing. And have you come to a point in your life, Helen, where where you now know what is an ADHD symptom compared to a perimenopausal symptom? Is
yeah.
there still a massive overlap
Oh,
where
massive
some
overlap.
days you're like, I still don't know, something's not like out of kilter. I'm not quite sure whether it's peri or whether it's ADHD.
Yeah. Um, I would say so much of it's the same, like brain fog and things like that can be from both, because the ADHD can tire you out, which then gives you similar symptoms and stuff. Um, but I'd say at the moment my HRT is also the right doses, so that's helping because
Yeah.
it
So,
goes up and down.
and
And I
did
love
you
a bit
go
of
on?
progesterone sleep. When you're on progesterone, woo, best sleep ever.
Is it really? I mean, again, because I've not been to the doctor yet,
Yeah,
we've not had the HRT conversation yet. But
yeah,
I know a lot of women that I've spoken to are on it, and there definitely
yeah,
seems to be less stigma around you, like going on HRT
yeah.
to when we were perhaps younger and our mums were going through it. I remember my mum saying, "Oh no, don't go on
No,
HRT. It's bad for you. There's a higher risk of cancer and all of this
yeah.
malarkey."
Although there
Um,
isn't, is that it protects you against some cancers, so it's a bit
yeah.
down to family history. Yeah,
Absolutely.
mm,
So, but yeah, I feel like some of the controversy is like gone away, which is
yeah,
great.
yeah, definitely.
Um,
Mm,
Fantastic. And how do you work around things like with? I mean, we'll treat ADHD and perimenopause kind of under one hat,
yeah,
like for the rest of the conversation because we don't really know.
no.
We haven't got a clue. Um, but how do you manage things like your focus and planning when you need to do that sort of deeper work, your client work? How do you manage all of that around your symptoms?
I think one of the hardest things is the energy level part. So not always predicting stuff like actually, oh, I really need to hyper focus, but I'm not there and stuff. A lot of it is being kind to giving myself grace that um, I can do the work that's needed when it's needed. But like, I might have an intense coaching session, um, and coaching brings out a different part of my brain. It's almost like a persona. So I've not had to move any or cancel any, because I wouldn't really want to do that. But like on a day where the energy levels are low, maybe I'll do an hour's coaching, but then actually give myself space and grace to rest for a couple of
Yeah.
hours because the joy of working for yourself, because I know I have to go and get my son at 3. So actually it's often about pacing, putting in those times, but also I don't do client facing stuff if I can avoid it
Yes.
on Mondays and Fridays, and that gives me time to do the boring admin, the catch up on stuff, because one of my ADHD things is I will see an email, but if I'm not can't reply to it at that moment, it might disappear. So that gives me 2 days a week where I catch up on stuff, make sure, like, get my head right on a Monday. It'd be like, right, what have I got coming up this week? Okay, so I've got to be here at that time and I've got to do that. I've got to prepare that session. Right, I'll prepare that now, and things like that.
Yeah. Because you've been
So
away a lot recently as well, haven't you, with
yes,
work? I mean, how do you manage that? Because that's when you're I think was it Belfast you've been over
yeah,
to? I mean, when you're
Belfast
planning
was
trips like
Manchester a couple
that,
of weeks ago.
you don't know when you're going to be having a particularly brain foggy day. They just happen. Like, how do you manage that
Um,
as well?
so with things like that, I will make sure the slides and I give myself a deadline that's sooner than it needs to be. So that's hard sometimes to stick to, but if I can connect it with something else, it
Yeah,
helps. And the adrenaline of delivering stuff usually pushes me through. But the other thing I always try and do, 9 times out of 10 manage to do it, is also keep the next day free. I didn't
yeah,
do it after Belfast actually, but if I can, I will keep the next day free to do that catching up stuff,
yeah,
to do that rest, to allow for a bit of that time. If I'm on a particularly brain foggy day, then it's clearly not a day when I can do anything extra.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Amazing. That's
Yeah,
really good. I like that. So you've learned to like you've learned what you need,
yeah,
and you give yourself. You know, you are a kindness coach. You know, you're
yeah,
kind to yourself,
yeah,
which I think is crucial, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And I don't want to burn out. I understand
No.
all the triggers and stuff for that. So yeah,
And that's one of my questions actually is around burnout, and because I have never put the two and two together, but it kind of popped into my head like when I was thinking about the questions for today. Can burnout be exacerbated during perimenopause? Do those
sure
two
is.
things go hand in hand as well?
Absolutely, because I think it's that shift in identity partly, you
Mm,
know. I think the hormonal stuff that affects ADHD can also affect our burnout. Um, it can affect, so if you think about some things like you're in a 9 to 5 job, some days you've got brain fog, you're not in a particularly supportive environment, so you're trying to push through it.
yeah,
Actually, then you're going to be more likely to burn out. A lot of burnout is to do with your core beliefs and
yeah,
stuff. And I think menopause makes, like, it shatters a lot of those, like, veils and stuff. I've used that several times. It also coincides, if we think most people start menopause, perimenopause in their 40s, it coincides a lot with a lot of life transitions.
yeah,
Either accepting you're not going to have children. For some people, their children are now older. For some people, they're having a last chance child. Also, our parents are getting older.
yeah.
Because chances are, if you're in your 40s, your parents are at least 60.
Yeah,
You know,
and I've got thankfully still got my parents, but I've also got my granddad
you've
still
got, yeah, I
alive
was about to
too, and
say,
it's like
yeah.
yeah,
And that's very unusual, isn't
yeah,
it? Yeah.
admittedly.
But, yeah, but chances are that if you held on to a grandparent who lived well into their 90s, you've only just said goodbye. So you're
Yeah,
only just now, your parents are only just adjusting to being
yeah,
the senior
yeah,
level. You're watching friends go through all sorts of things, and all our life. I mean, the crazy thing in your 40s, I saw something on Instagram where it was like some of your friends are a grandmother and some of them have got a baby, and it's crazy, isn't it? I don't think any of my friends are grandmothers yet. But, actually, some of my friends' mums were grandmothers by the time they were my age.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
oh,
So yeah, I think burnout absolutely connected with it because the ability to keep those masks. A lot of burnout is
yeah.
down to having masked for a long time as well.
And again,
Yeah.
there comes another blurring of symptoms. Like, at
Yeah.
what point do you go, actually, I am burnt out, or oh, it's just the perimenopause. I'll be fine. I'll just keep ploughing on.
But maybe instead of saying it's just the perimenopause, it's actually, do I need to go get HRT? Do I need some acupuncture and all the other
Yeah.
things that might help? You know,
Absolutely. Just go. I think the important message, and take note yourself, Rebecca.
we're
Just go
checking
and
up on
speak
you.
to a doctor, because like
Yeah.
once you've spoken to a medical professional,
Yeah.
you that hopefully, dependent on again the postcode
Mm.
lottery of whether you've got decent surgery or not, they'll point you in the right direction of where you can get help or more
Yes.
information, even because
Yeah.
and there's a world of treatments out there, whether you think you might have ADHD, whether you're going through perimenopause, whether you're burnt out, or whatever that looks like. There's so many different things you can try. It's not all about going on HRT or putting up with symptoms.
No.
There are other alternatives as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I've learned so much just from speaking to all of my wonderful guests on this series, because I thought I was
Yeah.
fairly well educated when it came to
Yeah.
perimenopause, because I work with clients who are in
Oh.
those fields.
Mm.
But actually, the more I talk to people, the more I'm like, I know
Nope.
nothing.
Yeah. But also
So
because everyone's experience is unique and different because it's
I
going
think
to,
that's the thing, isn't it? We're so good at just putting everybody in one under like one label, or in
mm,
order to have even things like ADHD, you must tick all these boxes. But actually, no, it does look different to everybody.
yes. Absolutely. It's, I mean, with ADHD, it's a whole big list of symptoms, and you're going to have some of them,
Yeah.
you know.
And the same with perimenopause. I mean, I can't sit here and say that I have hot flushes. I do get night sweats,
Yeah.
but that also ties into when my anxiety is high.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's baffling.
It's a bit of a chicken and egg. What came first, the hormones or the hot flush or the
Yeah,
stress or the anxiety? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
anxiety definitely gets worse connected with hormones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. So
Yeah.
going back to, you being a kindness coach as well, how does kindness play a role in managing, the juggle and everything that life throws at you at this wonderful age that we're at?
I think it's particularly self-kindness. It's
Mhm.
making sure there's time for you, time, and sometimes it's discipline as well. It's like the kindness of boundaries. It's saying, actually, I'm going to put my laptop away now. I'm going to sit down and do stuff. It's giving yourself, leaning into the advantage of being self-employed with being able to play to your energy levels, but also leaning into things like support. So networking can be really helpful. Also realizing when something's a pattern to do with either your ADHD or perimenopause, and then working around it as well.
Yeah.
So I'm running a burnout coaching program that I'm launching next week. And I had to really think about when the best time of day was to run it, how it would work, because it's 12 weeks. And something I struggle with is doing the same thing every day or every week. I really struggle with it. And that's something going self employed, like release,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, but do it. But I know I'm going to really love it. But I've put in deliberately 2 break weeks to
Yeah.
give myself that chance to
That's great.
adjust. And I'm doing it 7 till 8:30 because that has least impact on the family, and allows me to have some time afterwards. So because I was busy thinking, oh God, but those people won't be able to do it, and those people. So I think a big bit of kindness is actually what's going to work for you and your
Yeah.
situation, and
That's so
timing
true,
things.
isn't it? We're very quick to go, oh, what is gonna work for our target audience? And yes, you do need to factor that in to a
Yeah.
degree because you want people to sign up, but
Yeah.
actually what works well for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you can turn up as the best version of you as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
I've something that you just said. I've written down investigator of your own life. So you need to just in terms of I think patterns, just
Yeah.
start kind of asking yourself questions about why does that keep happening? What is
Yeah.
the pattern here? Is there a pattern?
Yeah.
And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, oh damn, there is.
Monitor your energy levels, because for some people they can focus really well in the evening. I mean, I know I get a burst of energy between about 8 and 10, and actually that's fine. That's fine for me. I'm not gonna I'm gonna have boundaries and stuff around
Yeah,
that. But if sitting here doing some emails or creating some things on Canva while I'm watching TV with my husband, fine, you know,
absolutely.
because then maybe I don't have much energy between, say, I don't know. Actually, I've got energy most of the day, but I don't like starting work at 9. I'd like to have a
Yeah,
bit of time between the school run and
yeah,
stuff, and so things like that. Um, yeah, and realizing that I worked best, when I was employed, I worked best in places that trusted me and
yeah,
gave me the autonomy. So I think
absolutely.
that is key to, yeah,
Definitely. I've certainly got clients who I can go weeks without checking in. They just trust that I'm going to get the work done and
yeah,
get it out there. I've got others who like to sign off on stuff. And whilst I'm happy to accommodate that, that does then mean I've had to reorder my days so that I get
yeah,
their stuff done at a time where because to my clients, I work pretty much 10 till 6. I
yes,
don't,
no,
but I'm not going to be contactable for clients to contact me outside of those hours.
yeah, so
And so therefore if I'm doing their work and it needs signing off, I need to make sure I do it during the right
yeah,
hours so they can actually get back to me and I can action stuff. But
and that's pressure on the executive load, isn't it? It's that, yeah. And it's
Yeah,
things
and then
like,
you come back to the fact that, oh, I've got to do that today, but actually I'm not in the right mindset for it, or
yeah, it's not going to be as
fancy
good.
doing something else today. I wanted to actually
Yeah,
do some work on my
yeah,
business, but no, you kind of. So yeah, it's
yes,
I hear you completely.
yeah.
And what does help you manage your energy across the week, Helen?
Um, Usually swimming, although I haven't managed to
Right.
do that for a bit for various health reasons that
Mm,
you know about, but we won't discuss it.
yeah.
And actually building in rest, so yoga, going for a walk, seeing friends and family. I'm a complete extrovert, so I do need to dose up on my social battery needs to be charged. Um, and also, yes, spending time with the kids and the husband. And just, yeah, so I think it's about making sure I allow myself time in the day to get outside, to, yeah, think about not just sitting at the computer, basically.
Yeah.
I get a lot more done when I don't have long to do it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
I hear you completely on that front. I still remember being at university, and the best grade that I ever got for a piece of coursework that I handed in, I wrote the entire essay the night before it had to be handed in, and I got my highest grade for it.
Yeah.
Doesn't do much for your nervous system,
No, but I
but
used
at
to
the
sit
same
up to three or
time,
four in the morning writing essays. I didn't read, never proofread them because I was like, don't have time for that. Spell check.
no,
We
God,
couldn't put it in
God.
AI to check. It was just
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah.
send it off. Writing helps. I do a lot of writing, as you know, and also making sure. So I've got my burnout stuff coming up. I've got my library membership, if any librarians happen to be watching, and that all feeds me. So actually having almost like a portfolio works well, I think. Yeah, leaning into the working late in the middle of the night if I need to. Working how's best for you, I think, is really key. Yeah, totally. Think I'm just laughing at you and the university stuff. Once I applied for a job, when the person who was going to be interviewing bumped into me and said, "Oh, are you applying for this job?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And they were like, "Oh, you really should." And this was at 3 o'clock, and the deadline was 6. And I still had to get home to my computer. And this was in London. I was living in Lewis, so I had to get home. I wrote it. I mean, I'd written quite a lot at this point. Filled in the form, copied and paste, got interviews, got the job. But like you say, actually, sometimes it's because you work best when you haven't spent lots of time thinking about something.
Absolutely. And
You
I
know?
mean, that's just triggered another memory in my brain, not about myself, but about my brother and a job that he went for once where he turned up, and this is slightly off track, but it
Yeah,
just, it's a funny
yeah,
story. He turned up to an interview wearing ripped jeans with bright pink hair, and he got the job.
yeah.
So sometimes you just have to bloody be yourself,
Yourself, yeah.
whatever
I mean,
that looks like.
I haven't at the moment, but as you know, I sometimes have pink and purple hair,
Certainly do.
and that is me, And if you don't like it, we're probably something I've learned in business is if they want me to work in a way that doesn't suit me, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But I also think I've realised one of the things that really stresses me out, as you know, is not being paid for things.
Yeah.
Particularly if, like, when you're going travelling and you've got to pay a lot out.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have huge like swirls of money to help, and actually not being paid really stresses me out. And I've realised part of it is because all the dopamine's gone. So I've
Yeah.
got all the dopamine and all the like serotonin going, yeah, I'm going to deliver this thing. And then afterwards, if I have to carry on chasing payment,
Yeah.
oh, you know,
Yeah.
actually it's really stressful.
It
It's
is.
not just stressful because you've got no money, but stressful because
Yeah.
on a different level. Like it will
Absolutely.
always be stressful, even if I
Yeah.
had £1 million in the bank. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
that. I'm always
Yeah.
worried that I'm just gonna, if I don't keep chasing, I'm gonna forget that they owe me that money.
Yes.
That's like my biggest fear. Not that I'm earning enough to really not notice it, because I would. but it's that, yeah, if I stop pestering you, what if I forget?
Yes. Absolutely.
Honestly. Um, Before we wrap up, Helen,
Hmm.
What's one thing that you'd love women to know about navigating perimenopause and ADHD and the juggle and all the rest of it?
I think it goes back to that: work out your energy, work out, be kind to yourself, and work out the best ways that work for you. I think that's the
Fantastic.
key bit. Yeah,
Love that.
definitely.
And do you want to
Yeah.
just quickly, you mentioned your burnout workshop.
Yes.
Do you want to just give that a quick plug, let people know where they can sign up if they're interested?
Yeah. So next Wednesday, the 28th. Is it the 28th? Yeah. No.
28th is
Next
Thursday. It's my mum's
27th. The
birthday.
27th at 7 o'clock. I'm running a burnout webinar, and then after that the doors open for my coaching program, and there'll be a self-guided version as well for people who can't stretch to
Great.
a
So
full
people can come and
program.
watch the webinar and then get a sense of whether it's the right
They'll get
thing
a
for
sense
them.
whether I'm the right person for
Yeah.
them and things, but they can come along if they just want some help with the burnout, even if they're not in the right place to actually do anything right now. It would help them.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
Yeah,
I'd come along myself, but I will be heading back to see the
thought you were.
family for mummy's birthday.
I thought you were. Yep.
I
But
never
I'd
call
love
my
to see
mum
people.
mummy, so I don't know why I just,
I did think I'd never heard you say
no.
that.
She's Mama G.
Yeah.
And Helen, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you and what you do?
So they can find the website, thekindbraveleader.co.uk, or go on to LinkedIn and look me up, and I'm there quite
Wonderful.
a lot. And I'm also on Instagram as the Kind Brave
You
Leader. But come on as Helen Rimmer on LinkedIn is what I do most of. Yeah.
excellent, wonderful. Well, eventually I will get around to putting these chats onto
Yeah.
YouTube, and I will put all the links in the blurb for that.
Lovely.
But that's on the very long list of to do things for the summer, I think, at this rate.
Yes.
This month has been a whirlwind. Like, I
Yeah.
just don't know where it's gone, quite
We need a
frankly. But
co-working day to get through our boring admin stuff,
we
don't we?
absolutely do.
Yeah.
100%. Let's get it in the
Let's
diary.
get that in. Right. Lovely to speak to you.
It's been great to speak to you too, Helen. Just so that everybody knows, we're
Mm.
about halfway through the season now.
Yeah.
So we're very much halfway through the season and almost halfway through the year. I think I've got 4 people left to join me on these lives. The next one is due to be on the 3rd of June. I'm just waiting for confirmation, so I won't announce who that's going to be just yet. But we've got loads more exciting chats coming up. So keep your eyes peeled for those. Helen, thank you ever so much for joining me.
That's
It's been
okay.
lovely to see you, and
Lovely to
enjoy
see
the
you.
rest of your days,
Yep.
everybody. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
Bye.